Hello, everybody. Welcome to Better Together. When you know better, you get better. That's what we do here every single day. As I mimicked Kelsey over here, she dropped a few things, and now we're cracking up laughing.
She threw me off my game.
I threw you off your game. If you're that easily thrown off, Miss Meyer, then we've got
a problem.
No, I'm just kidding. She's also got Winnie in her
I
hand.
have a poodle in my arms.
Guys, I hope you're having an amazing day wherever in this wacky, cool world you are. We have an amazing guest today with an amazing interview about an amazing documentary. Her name is Nicole Avant, and she is the filmmaker behind The Black Godfather on Netflix. And this is an unknown day. I don't know what day in this world you're seeing this because we pre-taped this for a rainy day. And so that rainy day is today. I don't know what's happening, but I'm hoping that like the coolest, craziest thing is happening in my life right now. And that's why I had to take the day off.
Yeah.
And that's why this is playing.
Here it is. Canopy Lake Park reopened.
What?
And we're there.
Canopy Lake Park. Okay.
Okay.
Listen.
No, Santa's Village up in New Hampshire.
New Hampshire. We didn't go to the ice castles when we could have. What a dummy. I totally forgot. So Kevin and I watched The Black Godfather on Netflix and were blown away. Now, Nicole's brother Alex and I have been friends for years in the industry. And I had no idea. I mean, I don't know who anybody is generally unless it's like an obvious, someone's like, oh my God, that's this person or that's that person. I've never really kind of cared.
Right.
My friends would always just tell me context if I needed it at times. Like Rachel was always my, encyclopedia. Or, on the celebrity front, Meredith would always tell me, oh, that's this person or that's that person. But to me, everybody's just people. And I just want to have a fun conversation with people and have a fun experience. So I never had any kind of agendas. So I never needed to know what anybody did or who they were. So I didn't know who Alex's dad was or Nicole's dad was. I just found out last night. And his dad and their dad and her dad is one of the most powerful people in our business and so incredible.
In a very unique way.
In a really unique way.
It's not like he's the president of blah, blah, blah. No. Just behind the scenes.
People didn't even know what he did.
And
that's how ambiguous.
And I feel like the term Godfather, unfortunately, there's a sexiness to it at best, and at worst, there's a darkness to it because it's mafia, and he's not those things. He truly is a godfather in the sense of the familial.
Like an angel.
Like the family god, like your godfather, Maria, who's in your life to be your second dad. And that's what he really is. And it's such an incredible movie, and I think such an important movie for everyone to see, and so inspirational for everyone. So many lessons in it, so I can't wait to talk to her.
Jeff, had you seen it yet?
No.
I know.
I know. And like,
he and I both need to
listening watch. Who haven't, 100% Kelsey, and for people who haven't seen it, I would say that Clarence Avant did more for music and for particularly Black artists than anyone. He is a historical powerhouse and still is a powerhouse, but it's worth watching the documentary either before or after you listen to this interview, just because it is so, so good. But just know that going in, that's kind of what the conversation is about when they dive in. He was this, you could say music executive, but also just game-changing industry force who did more for underserved people than anyone else during his time.
But it wasn't just for Black people.
Right.
That's why he's special. He's special because he did it for people. He wanted fairness for everyone. Women, I mean, anybody. It could have been Lassie wasn't getting the same money that, Flipper was getting. I don't know. like he's just one of those like very special people who just wanted fairness for everyone. And yes, he was trying to push his community forward, his people forward, but he was just an awesome guy.
And he was just so generous and so giving and so evolved, I mean, this is somebody that had every reason to be bitter, negative, angry, vengeful, self-centered, just out for himself. And no matter what was thrown at him, he wasn't, and it didn't always go his way, as you'll see. But so it's such an inspirational story for everyone. It's such an example of how we really can make it work in this country.
And how we are better together.
Yes, 100%.
And the other thing that's really cool, I just totally forgot.
Oh, I'm sorry, honey.
Womp womp. Been a long day.
What?
Has been a long day.
Shit, it was a really good point.
The other thing that's cool is my Demi Lovato shirt.
Yeah, Demi.
Thank you, everyone. That's what I know you wanted to say.
I can't.
I was just helping you out.
If we're on the same wavelength, Maria, was it that you were going to say all of those qualities we were saying for Clarence have been passed down to Nicole, and that's going to be made so clear in this interview?
No, but that's so cool too. Oh, the other cool thing is that he did everything his way, right? I don't think it's a coincidence that they had Sammy Davis sing "I Gotta Be Me" in there. I mean, it was a very powerful moment for Sammy Davis and all of that, but also it was also who her dad was. Yeah. And when he walks in a Coca-Cola, wait till you see the movie and you see how he got Hank Aaron his Coca-Cola deal and what he said. This is not a bullshitter. He literally went in. What he taught me in that is everything that you have in your crazy pea brain about how things are supposed to be done and it's supposed to be like this and you're supposed to do it like that. Like he just shatters all of that and says, just fucking do it and just do it your way and have the confidence behind your way. And then people are going to react. I mean,
can I go back to Sammy Davis, Maria? So I don't know if you know the history, but Sammy Davis, and again, this is why we need to see this today. Sammy Davis at that point was supporting President Nixon.
Yeah, there was a photo of him hugging
Nixon. Nixon was super right wing. So the African American community at the time was really down on Sammy for that. They're like, he's Republican, he's not for us. Jimmy Carter was for us, but Nixon is not our people, and Clarence, when they had a benefit concert for Martin Luther King, he said, no, Sammy's going to be included. And they were like, are you kidding? No, like, he's not part of this. Like, no, he is. And then poor Sammy was like, I'm nervous. And he said, just go out and speak from your heart. And then Sammy went out and said, listen.
Wow. They booed him.
They booed him. And he said, and your generation, Kelsey and Jeff, need to hear this. They booed him, and he just said, listen, it's okay to boo me. Meaning, because that's our country. We can, believe it or not, people, have different opinions, and we can have different views on politics. Hello? He was like, but the one thing you can't take away from me, and I won't let you, is I am black. And then he sang I Gotta Be Me, which to me is one of my favorite songs of all time, but one of his greatest songs. And it's like, no matter what, I've got to be who I am. And everyone cheers, and Sammy breaks down in tears, and you see it. And this was Clarence, who had the guts to put him out there.
Wow.
And was like, no, you go out. No, you'll be fine. Go out there. I don't care if the audience is going to boo. No, you're Sammy Davis Jr. You've done more for us. Go out there and sing. And so, again, and this is, guys, one sliver of so many unbelievable moments in this movie.
If I was to ever buy a gift for Clarence Avant, do you know what it would be?
What?
I would get gold-formed balls, and I would write Clarence on one and Avant on the other, and that would be my gift to this man. And I might just do it, because I've never seen anyone with bigger fucking balls in my life.
Yeah.
But you know what was cool? And she even mentioned it right at the top of the interview. She talked about how someone had to be a champion for him to be a champion for everyone else. And I think that's such a cool message because it's like, it's not that he's an incredible person. Clearly he had it in himself, but it also took someone to be a champion in him. Yeah. And I think that, so aside from his gold balls.
Yeah. And then everyone he coached, as you see, they all want to now pay it forward. And and it can really work that way.
Right.
Anyhow, pretty amazing. Let's get to Nicole. Nicole was a powerhouse music executive, turned ambassador to the Bahamas, turned award-winning producer with her Netflix documentary, The Black Godfather. As an impressive multi-hyphenate with her hands in tons of different industries, she is an example of someone who has learned how to pivot, grow, and say yes, thanks to her intuition. And she's here today to teach us how to learn when and how to say yes when opportunity comes knocking. And of course, we're going to be talking all about the Godfather, her dad, Clarence Avant. I'm so excited to have you here today.
It's time. I think what's happened in this last year, I think a lot of old molds are starting to break away, and they needed to.
Yeah.
They had to. They're not sustaining us anymore, clearly.
Totally.
Clearly. I mean, they're not, nothing is, whatever we've all been thinking as a collective consciousness, it really kind of went downwards. So we've got to kind of shift back, because you don't have to say anything. You just see it. And you everyone is showing you kind of where their consciousness is.
So Nicole, the other thing to that is when my mom and I both got our brain tumors, I had so many epiphanies, and I started studying the Esther Hicks of the world and the Wayne Dyers and all of these people, and the Joe Dispenzas, and what I realized was I felt like I was so alone. I felt like I had all this new knowledge and like no one around me kind of knew or got it. And I kept saying, how do I get people to have these epiphanies without getting a brain tumor? Well, then COVID happened and everyone got their collective brain tumor in a sense, because the whole point was that health is the most important thing you have and the most important thing you need to like savor and protect and cultivate. And that's not just your physical health, it's your emotional and your spiritual and your
100%.
Mental. And that's what I get to do here every day. I get to talk to the best experts in all of these areas and get better every single day. Like, what better thing to do every single day?
Nothing. I don't really know anything. Really, it's the best gift of service.
Thank you.
I think.
I'm so excited. Well, you gave us such a gift, and I'll tell you, I'm friends with Alex, your bro, and it was really funny. I've had the Black Godfather on my to watch list on my phone, but I forget that I have that list. And so when I saw you were coming on, I was like, oh my God, this has been on my list forever to watch. Right. And so my husband and I watched it last night, and it was amazing. Like, it has stayed with me all day, and it will stay with me forever for so many reasons. And so I'm sure, it was a journey to get to making it. But your family and your dad is just one of a kind, obviously. And that's why this was so cool. But what I loved about him is he's so unapologetically himself.
Yes.
And I think that's something we all want to be more like.
Yes.
Right?
100%.
And he was all of us. He was, I always say, like, he didn't have the formal trainings. He came from, poor circumstances. And so I feel like when you come from nothing, there's only one way to look, and that's up.
That's right.
And that's our advantage when we come from nothing. Yeah. And so I loved that he was so a champion of talent and wanting to help people. But one of the questions I left with, which I had like a million questions, was he was best friends with everybody. Like he was friends with everybody. So now he's helping talent get the best deals from his friends who are the studio executives or the music executives. Right. Were the music executives ever pissed that he's like helping them get a better deal out of them because these guys got to pony up more money?
You know what? I think everyone at that time understood that he knew what his mission was, and which was, as he says in the film, my mission was to move my people forward. End of story. And I think once he knew that, and people respected that, because it wasn't coming out of, we want more money because we're just greedy and we're just money. It was, this is about fairness. This is about equality. This is about, if you're getting paid that, then he should get paid that, regardless if he's a different race, regardless if she's a different gender, regardless if it's just, what is the going rate here? Mm-hmm. What is it? Now, I'm going to put this person in the job, whether it's a female or a black male or what have you, let them get paid what the rate is. End of story. And I think people at that time, because civil rights was basically pretty, my dad started in the 60s and the Civil Rights Act wasn't passed till 64. So it wasn't like it was that much longer. You know what I mean? There wasn't this big leap where he came in later. It was, okay, now that these acts are in place, now that these laws are in place, we have to implement them. Yeah. And there has to be somebody paying attention, saying, hey, wait a minute. We have talent here. We have people who want to work. We have people who need deals. We have people who are more than qualified to be in these positions. And he was a champion. And he knew, again, to your point, his purpose was to be a champion. And I think he got that. And someone was a champion for him, though.
See, that's Mr. Glazer.
That's the thing. Exactly. Papa Glazer. You know what I mean? I call him Grandpa Joe. I mean, that without Joe, I don't even know if I'd be here, because I don't know if my dad would have really made it.
Yeah.
You know, but Joe saw something in him and then opened the door and then taught him everything and sat with him and showed him the world. And everywhere my dad says I went, and it was segregated still. And Joe says, doesn't matter. You sit right here. And he said, but I'm supposed to go sit back with the colored people. He goes, doesn't matter. You sit here with me and watch and listen and learn.
So where did Joe Glazer get that from? Do you know? I mean, because it's fascinating to me to see a white man like say, no, you're not living in Baldwin Hills. You're going to live in Beverly Hills, and I'm going to give you the money. Like it was such a beautiful story. It made me like so emotional. It makes me emotional recounting it now, because obviously it was a different time then. Yeah. It's still a different time sometimes, but whatever. And just the generosity of that man to share his everything with your dad, and then the trust, right? Like, because in Hollywood, I think there's such a fear that you're going to get screwed over. So imagine a Joe Glazer would naturally think, oh, once I make him powerful, he's going to leave me and screw me over, right? But he didn't. The loyalty your dad had to him, and the bond and the friendship and the humility your dad always carried for him was so amazing that I think is what trickled around to all of his other relationships. And the way he then carried that message that Joe shared in giving and sharing and helping. He touched so many lives. I feel like almost like Joe needs another documentary too.
I know. Well, it's a great example of the ripple effect, which does happen, and it can go in both ways. You know, I mean, sometimes if someone is, you know, constantly bombarding you with negativity, and children grow up and or what have you, I mean, there's a ripple effect. We see that. And so this way it went the other way. And to be honest with you, I don't think Joe ever once woke up and said, because of this act that I'm doing, I'm about to change so many lives. I'm about to change Black culture. I don't think he woke up thinking that one day of his life. Yeah. I think he just looked at it as if there's a person in front of me. I see some talent in him, and I want him on my team, and I'm going to teach him what I need to learn. And then because of that, and, you know, my dad being, you know, from the South, there's a lot of Southern, you know, I think Southerners have a different way of looking things where they kind of always remember a little better of who helped me, and, oh yeah, I got to pay it forward. They're pretty, you know, they have issues, but they do remember that. And, and I think that's what's so beautiful about it. And that's why I want to tell the story, because it wasn't just a story about Black excellence or excellence in general, but I wanted to tell with this movie a story about the American dream, and that focused on entrepreneurship, which is a real spirit of America, right? And owning your individuality, which is huge. And that spirit is kind of, I could see it from the letters I received from the movie, it's kind of missing. It's that spirit of endurance. Yep. So yes, these people were successful, but what I learned from them was endurance and perseverance and getting back up. And like you said in one of the podcasts I listened to last night, for me, sink or swim. Yeah. You know, somebody said that to you, or it's coming out of somebody's book. But when you're given an opportunity to sink or swim, you know, and they were all given that, they all had that in common of, oh my God, we're going to sink, and we have to make the decision to swim, and we're going to help each other kind of get to shore here. And I think that's what needs to come back into society, instead of being so focused on who offended me and who said something and who did this. My God, get up and live, for Christ's sake. Yeah. You know?
Yeah, I think that Mr. Glazer had that fairness. Like I'm very attracted to fairness because it's something that a quality that I really have in myself. I'm one of the fairest people you'll probably ever meet. And so I really it's something that I just enjoy in other people when I find people that are fair. So Mr. Glazer had the fair thing and your dad had the fair thing. And that was a great point that you had. It wasn't just for Black people to get what was fair. It was women. It was everybody. He just wanted everyone to have a fair shake at everything.
I think when you receive enough injustice on your plate, and you see, and I remember my dad was born in 1931, so he's going to be 90 in a couple of weeks.
Wow.
So he was born into laws that said no. He was born into Jim Crow. Mm-hmm. So he was born into segregation. So he was naturally born into injustice. So he took that and lived that. And then as things started to get better, again, because of people like Joe, then I think he didn't take it. He took it very seriously, as if, I'm not sure how long this door is going to stay open.
Yeah.
I really don't know. So if I have a chance to get through it and I can bring as many people through, then I'm going to do that, which is why, Harriet Tubman for me was my hero growing up, because for her, it was like, once she got a taste of, wait, you mean over here in these states in the North, it's not this way in the South? Wait, I got to go back. Mm-hmm. I have to go back and bring people. And everyone told her she was crazy. Why would you even risk your life again? But it's that sense of, you don't know how long this door is going to be open. And I think when anyone has challenges like that, especially of inequality and injustice, any type of unfairness, any type of cruelty, because it really is just basic cruelty.
Yep.
And I think there was no other way to live. That's what I think. What's in my father's consciousness was, well, what else am I going to do? Of course, I'm going to go try and get people through the door. I mean, what else am I going to do?
Well, I also thought it was interesting when he's like, I don't march. I didn't march. Yeah. And mm-hmm. then you're juxtaposing that with Martin Luther King saying, if you don't stand up for injustice, mm-hmm. like you're a part mm-hmm. of the injustice. And I thought it was like an interesting point. But what I think your dad is he was his own renegade. Like he was his own man. He's like, I'm going to fix this my way. I don't need to do it everybody else's way.
Right. And he knew Martin, and he went to his funeral, and he helped him. But everyone had to do, there were different ways of marching, so to speak. There were different ways of expressing, hey, this is not right, and we're going to do this. And I love that my father said, I really couldn't march because if someone had spit on me or hit me or the dogs came after me, he would have fought back and he would be dead. Yeah. So my dad was really trying to say, like, I don't know if I was even strong enough to do the nonviolence.
Wow.
And the nonviolence strategy, I think, is the most brilliant strategy. Mm-hmm. And Dr. King realized it, and they all learned from Gandhi. A lot of people don't know that, but they really did study his principles and studied what was able to happen in India. And they knew that was the missing piece, and they were right, by the way. I mean, Dr. King was right. But the idea that he just got up and marched and he was happy-go-lucky, I always tell people there was a strategy in that man that I respect so much. Dr. King, he had a team everywhere in the United States that they were strategizing and having meetings and really doing so much more than just saying we're going to turn the other cheek. I mean, the turn the other cheek was the most brilliant part of it. And my dad just really knew that he probably wouldn't have done so well with that, but he did his own thing that would still help the movement. Yeah. So he helped the movement in his own way, to your point.
Yep.
And I think, again, he owns his individuality. And he gave me that gift, which is, I know what I'm really good at, and I know what I'm not great at, and I know what gifts I can give to the world, and I only focus on those because I can't do everything. Yeah. I don't even want to try to do everything.
Yeah. I wonder, at what point did you decide I'm going to make this doc, and then what were some of the kind of steps and challenges, or were there any challenges? I don't even know.
Yeah, I mean, I wanted to make this documentary for a long time because as a child, I would notice so many stereotypes if I was in a room and people would say, well, how are you in this room? Because all Black people are this way, or all Black people go to bad schools, or all Black people are poor, or all Black people are uneducated. And I'm thinking, talking about? Like my whole world was, I knew black doctors, lawyers, business people. I didn't even understand that idea. So but I loved the power of film for myself, and the power of film and TV changed me. Mm-hmm. And so I decided at a very young age, I want to, one day, I knew all these stories. You know, Hank Aaron was in my life since I was 6, and Andrew Young and all the people in the documentary, they were a part of my life. So when they would tell me these stories of endurance and perseverance and getting up and moving forward and paying back, at first I was like, do they think I'm gonna forget? Do they think I'm gonna forget this? Why are they hammering this in? And it was an epiphany I had probably at 10, realizing, oh, they want to make sure that no one forgets this, and they want me to pass this on.
Wow,
they
you
want
knew that
me
at
to
10?
help tell their stories. Yeah, I was about 10 years old. Yeah.
Wow.
Because I remember seeing this movie Cabin in the Sky with Dorothy Day. When I saw different movies of with Harry Belafonte or Dorothy Dandridge or anything, I would look at, and I knew what it did for me. Your Eye on the Prize, that documentary. I knew what it did for me. Mm-hmm. And I noticed a lot of people, even when I went to college or anything, they didn't know it, black or white. They didn't, they didn't really know their history. So a part of the documentary that Reggie Hudlin and I wanted to do was, we didn't just want to celebrate people's successes. We wanted to show where they came from, and that it wasn't always pretty, wasn't always easy, wasn't fair, but they kept moving forward. Mm-hmm. And they didn't move forward to get an award. They moved forward for my generation. And so there was a baton that was passed by these men and women. And I think it's very important for all of us to remember that we all stand on shoulders of our ancestors and people before us and the generations before us. And it's not a joke. Yeah. You know, these people went to war for us. People are marching for us, and everybody. And we need to respect that and remember that. And basically what I'm trying to say is to take our freedom seriously. Mm-hmm. It's not a joke. Yeah. And freedom didn't always come easy, clearly. Yeah. And we have to remember that and use it wisely. I don't want to spend my time I only want to spend my time empowering people, inspiring people, motivating people. I don't want to spend my time picking on people or focusing on what they did wrong or what they wore wrong. Who cares? Mm-hmm. And I think that it's a sickness that's invading society. So that's why I wanted to tell this film, because I knew, and it's again based on all the letters we've received and the accolades that we've received for the film. It's like, ooh, yes, we did it. Like, we set out with this intention to heal and motivate and inspire and empower another generation, and to remind other people, like, look, you've got it much easier than these people, so have at it.
But I think it was so much more than that, Nicole, too. That's there. But to me, also, it was the inspiring quality of someone who came from nothing, who just figured it out. And that can be anybody who's watching that doc can just figure it out.
It's so funny you say that, because that's when everyone says, what's your motto? What's your mantra? Figure it out. Yeah. I say it to everybody. Figure it out. And sometimes you figure it out by reading other people's stories, watching other people's stories, or just going through life and trying things.
That's it.
And you figure it out. Trial and error. Okay, that worked. That didn't work. It's almost like it's like a buffet. Yeah. Like life is this buffet. You're going to try some things, not working for me. You're going to try other things. That worked. Yeah. Let me try that one again. And it is figuring it out. And life, that's really what it is. It's trials and tribulations. Mm-hmm. Scripture says, God takes you from glory to glory. And someone reminded me, yes, and in between the glories are the valleys. Yeah. And valleys are very difficult, right? Yeah. But without the valley, you build character. Mm-hmm. That's where you build your character. Mm-hmm. That's when you get up and try again. That's when you start to grow spiritually. And it doesn't feel so great when you're growing spiritually. Totally. It's like pruning. It's like cutting off the dead branches, cutting off this. And then you realize as you get older, oh, it's the entire root. I need to pick up and maybe reroute or reestablish myself somewhere else. And so, again, going back to the film, the endurance part for me and perseverance, it's always my message to people, figuring it out. In order to figure things out, you have to persevere.
Yeah.
And in order to, you can't figure things out without having a sense of endurance.
Well, so clearly that's your handprint all over this that I felt, because you carried that in. There's that all over it. But then also, I couldn't help but also, I kept thinking of the movie It's a Wonderful Life. And then, of course, your dad's name is Clarence.
Clarence and the angel. Did you really not know that story that I have about that?
No. What?
I really thought, it's so funny that you brought that up. It's going to make me cry. When people used to ask me what my father did when I was little, I would say, oh, he's in the record business, but I knew he was doing all these other things, but I didn't know how to describe that. I didn't understand the word deal maker. I didn't understand that word. And It's a Wonderful Life is my favorite movie. Watch it every year, hands down. I watch it a couple times a year. When I saw that movie and the angel came down and he said his name was Clarence, I remember exactly, I was in my parents' living room. I was laying down on the floor watching the TV like this, and I said, oh my God, that's what my dad does. He's an angel. And I really thought that's what he did. So then I started in my head like, oh, okay, I want to do the same thing. But I thought because the angel's name was Clarence, I thought, oh, my dad's an angel for people.
Wow.
That's what I really thought.
Wow.
Yeah. And he actually, if you look back at it, kind of really that's what it was. He was an angel. And most of his friends, or most of the people in the documentary would say, he was the angel that showed up in my life at the perfect time. And Hank Aaron, who bless his soul, just passed last week, he would say that to me all the time. I was successful. I was about to break Babe Ruth's record, but your father saw something different. He saw something more. And getting me that deal with Coca-Cola, he was an angel to me. Andrew Young, he was, Dr. King's lieutenant, is saying to me, your father was an angel. He just showed up in my life and did something, and we didn't understand what he wanted. We didn't understand why he was doing that, or why he would say, I'll help you. And people thought he was crazy, but it's funny that you bring that movie up, because it made me understand my father in a way that I don't think without that I would have really understood what his mission was.
Yeah, I love it. We love that movie.
I love that you thought that.
We love that movie. We watch it every year. Yeah. And I've always said to Kevin, I felt like he was Jimmy Stewart in the movie, and I was Donna Reed, where I had to come in and because what was great in this doc is when your dad fell on hard times, he was rich in friends. And his friends helped him. And I literally felt like I was watching a modern day It's a Wonderful Life. And it's so special. Like I said, this documentary is special in so many levels. But now when you take it to that, you realize what a great example you're showing of what we all should be more like. Right? I keep hearing, executives in business, business is a full contact sport, and, they're all just such sharks. And your dad was such an example of conscious business leadership and humility and kindness. And, I feel like when I entered entertainment news, I kind of felt like I was like the secret, reporter superhero for everyone. I wanted to protect everybody. I didn't want to hurt anybody. My goal was, how do I protect them? And I would figure out ways to circumvent the gossip shit that they wanted me to get from people, where I would talk to them and negotiate with them before and say stuff like, hey, they want this, I don't want to do this, but can we, and I would figure out how to protect them in every situation. I have countless stories of celebrities that I helped in different moments. And I felt like that was my place, and that was what I wanted to do.
Mm-hmm.
And so I felt that when I was watching your dad, and I said, we need more examples of business not needing to be nasty, business being about helping people, and then that becomes the ripple effect. So now Jimmy Jam and all these guys are like, no, we're not going to be protective and say, oh, we're not going to introduce you to this person or that person because you might steal our glory and our shine. No, we can all shine together.
Yeah.
And I just thought that the doc gave me so much, and I feel like it's going to give so much to so many more people. And also, I mean, I feel like with you, you know, knowing a little bit about your life, you know, when you were asked to be the ambassadress to the Bahamas, you know, you can explain what that was like for you, but you said yes. And I find that so inspiring. And we'll tangentially move over to this for a second. You obviously learned from your dad. Your dad didn't represent sports athletes. He just saw something in him and said, I'm going to figure this out for you. And he just, when he felt something, he went with it. Mm-hmm. And he wasn't afraid to say yes. Now, women, I feel like we have a harder time saying yes to things we don't feel like we're qualified for because we're afraid. Mm-hmm. And so we kind of cut off our opportunities a lot quicker because of that fear. So I'd love for you to kind of dive into what it was like to have that opportunity and kind of the feelings around that and how you navigated those.
It's interesting because I thought about it last night. I'm in my office now with all my pictures from the Bahamas and different things we did, the embassy and I did together. And I really, you know, saying yes to that, I was very scared, by the way, still very, very afraid. And I think, you know, what I try to tell women is, you know, do it afraid. That's what courage is. You do it afraid. Mm-hmm. Still do it and still be afraid. So I was very afraid of all of it. I loved, but I knew the opportunity was something that I would never, it was such a beautiful opportunity that it was dropped in my lap. And I thought, oh my God, I get a chance to go serve my country. And I get a chance to go do this. Oh my God, you know, people, this is incredible. It wasn't something I ever really thought about. I didn't, you know, work for him to get anything. And again, the joke of it is because I didn't go into being his California finance chairwoman to receive anything in return or to receive an award, a reward, I should say. But when I was asked, it was a really good friend of mine, Charlie Rifkin, who went on to be the U.S. ambassador to France. And Charlie and I were partners in crime here in Los Angeles. And it was really Charlie, because sometimes people have to dream for you. Even if you know it's right for you and you want to do it, and then that fear comes up, sometimes you need that person right behind you to give you that little kick that just moves you into the arena. And that was Charlie Rifkin for me. And he said, Nick, you know, you were almost born to do this. You've been in politics all your life. You love serving people. You love serving in general, because I really do. I mean, I live to serve. It makes me when I know when I'm not happy or when I'm down in the dumps a little bit, it means that I'm too focused on myself. I need to be giving more, serving more, something. It gets me out of my own little hamster wheel. And so to have that opportunity to go overseas was incredible. And I still have, you know, my friends from DEA and Coast Guard and Customs and Border Patrol, all these guys that I would have never been acquainted with. We would have never been friends, right? And it's almost like Joe Glazer and my father, like all the people in the Black Godfather on paper, they would have never really connected or been friends with each other. It doesn't even make sense on paper. And this was I took that kind of attitude to the job, which was, okay, obviously I know what the mission, you know, every ambassador has the same mission to, you know, protect Americans and protect our interests abroad and, you know, all that. But my personal agenda was to empower. And I was able to take that agenda to the embassy and bring the best of my world, even that I had, and bring examples to the youth, because I really wanted to empower the youth population in the Bahamas. And I chose the Bahamas because I wanted to go to a Black nation. I wanted them to see a Black female in power. And believe me when I tell you, one of my happiest days of my life, I walked into the Ministry of Education, and all of a sudden, all these people were in the hallway. They were upstairs, like in the corridor, and they're cheering and chanting. And I walk in, and I looked at my deputy, and I said, "Wow, who's coming today? What's going on?" And he said, "Ma'am, that's for you. They're here for you." And I said, "What?" And he said, "They're so excited to see you." And most of them were these women looking down from the banister and just showering, "Thank you so much." And then I would get letters from them saying, "My daughter was pretty much failing out of school, didn't want to go to school, didn't see any pathway. And then she sees you on the news every night, or she sees you in the newspapers, and she's asking, well, what does an ambassador do? Wait, why is she with the prime minister? Wait, what is this?" And now all of a sudden, now she wanted to be the prime minister of the Bahamas. You know what I mean? Because sometimes you have to be able to see people in positions, obviously. And so for me, it was, saying yes for women. I think a lot of the fear is the fear of the return of, really, what are you doing here? Really, why are you really in this room? Because we feel it, right? I mean, I used to walk into rooms and I'd say, "Let me just break the ice here. I have a brain and it functions."
No way.
Wow. And then let's go from there and kind of break the ice. And, or when people would say stupid, sexist things, I remembered it worked for me like a charm. I would always say, "Really? I know your mom taught you better than that. I know you know better than that."
Wow.
And I noticed it would just sometimes just cut it just enough where, really? And,
I like that.
but you still, look, before we're all afraid, but look, can you imagine all the people that were so much more afraid 60 years ago, 50 years ago, being the only female in the law firm, being the only female anywhere, and no one taking them seriously, or a lot of women behind their husbands doing the work, scientists, artists, this and that, really doing the work because they genuinely weren't allowed to be great. And so I think when you have a chance that we do now to be your best self, you owe it to yourself to be that, and you owe it to society to do that, and the world becomes better when you show up. And it might be a little harder for you, but so what?
Yeah.
I mean, we have it much easier, I'm trying to say, than everybody who came before us.
Yep.
And if they can do it,
So
then
can
we
you.
can do it. And then the next generation, it'll be easier for them. And then the next generation will be easier for them. And hopefully it will just be, we'll be good.
Yeah.
But it takes time.
Well, when I was watching, there was a moment in the doc where there was a shot of people working the fields, and I saw this woman, and she's holding her baby, and she's picking stuff, and I looked at Kevin and I said, "We are such brats. I couldn't maybe do that for an hour in my total life. Forget every freaking day." And that's how I survive. God bless these people who before us did what they did, whether it was wars, like you said, or, marching for rights and freedoms and everything. We're brats. And I think your dad, when I watched this, there was another thing that I took away. I don't think he has patience for victims. And I don't,
God, no.
right? Like, I think he's like, pull yourself up from your bootstraps, because he's like, listen, I didn't look at myself like I was lesser or like, oh, poor me, everyone's looking at me because I'm the only black man in the room. He didn't give a shit. And I think that when he looks at other people who look at themselves as victims in situations, he doesn't have patience for it. That's one of the takes I had.
Oh, 100%. And he gave that to me. I definitely don't have the patience. I can't. And that was, again, the timing of the film for me was, oh, wow, this is a perfect time, because I started to feel as if every time I had a conversation with people, it came more out of a victim mentality, or I would read things and I don't like that at all, especially from my family that I came from. So my grandmother, I mean, she did domestic work since she was 6 years old. 6. So she never, and then while she had her children, she would tell me the stories of her life. To your point, I would say, oh my God, I could do that for an hour.
Yeah.
What? But I'm so happy that I asked her the questions. I'm so happy that she drilled into me that, look, life is not a joke. It is not to be wasted. Mm-hmm. I didn't have a childhood. I've worked every day. I mean, her hands had calluses to the point of, because she's working since she was 6 years old and doing domestic work. But her mother was in the fields, and her grandmother was and generations of that. But again, they endured, and they endured for other people. Mm-hmm. And I think that's something where what I learned was a lot of it, they knew that they weren't going to have their rights for themselves, but they didn't stop because they knew if they persevered enough that the next generation would have the rights. And I think that's a very powerful place to be, of selfless, being unselfish and really thinking of others. And so no, victimhood doesn't sit well with me at all. And that's what I love about, my husband's the same. I mean, Teddy didn't grow up with anything, and his parents were young, and nobody went to college, and they didn't have a lot of money, and he doesn't have a fancy degree, and he doesn't have frat brothers to support him. He didn't have any of that. But Teddy is the ultimate, this is what I love about him, is that he figures it out. Mm-hmm. And Teddy has figured out his life, and I was very attracted to that in Ted. I was very attracted to him being a responsible person and a kind person and a curious person. And he loves film and television, and he loves films because when he worked in a video store, that's what he did to make extra money. And on his breaks, or when the store wasn't crowded, he would just watch all the movies and fell in love with movies. But he studied cinema, and he studied things. And so you never know where you are in life or where it's going to take you later. All the jobs that I didn't want to do as a teenager, the waitressing, the selling shoes, or whatever I was doing, I was like, ugh. But it helps you with when you serve other people, I tell everybody this, when you serve other people in those positions, you get to learn about humanity quicker than anything. You get to understand human behavior when you're obviously dealing with humans. Yeah. Not just a quick 2 seconds, but you understand behaviors. And some people were very kind to me in a waitress position, and some people were terrible. And then it makes you think, oh, I never want to be that way. Right? Oh my God, it just, and I think that, and nothing is beneath anybody. And that's what I wanted our kids to understand. And Sarah started working as a waitress 16, 17, 18, 19, and she said, you're so right. I said, you got to serve. You got to know what it's like. And so you got to understand that you're no better than anyone else, and no one is any less than you, and I had somebody come here one day. We had a big party for a Netflix event, and there were about 300 people here, and it was a big deal, and everyone's having a great time. And then, of course, one of the toilets got clogged, and it was a mess. I'm trying to plunge it. I'm trying to fix it. We couldn't do it. It needed to be taken apart. Bottom line is, I called somebody, and he shows up, but he was so enamored with all the stars, all the people at the house and everybody he recognized from TV. And he said to me, oh my God, and I'm just a plumber. Mm-hmm. And I go, what? Are you kidding me? You are the most important person in my house right now. Because let me tell you something. Yep. Those 300 people out there cannot take apart this toilet, including myself. We cannot do what you're doing right now. You are the most important person in this room right now. Please don't ever forget that. And please don't ever say, I'm just. Yep. Because we're all here to solve problems. Yep. We're all here to make things work. Yep. Right? For each other.
Oh, my husband says it all the time when we have, anybody that comes and helps us at the house. He's like, we have enough TikTok stars. We need people who work. We need people who help us go around. He's like, everybody just wants to be famous now. Where are we going to have plumbers in 10 years? There are going to be none left.
Yeah, he tells me that.
I'm fascinated with everybody. I look at architects and engineers and doctors and nurses and lawyers, and I'm looking at everybody saying, oh my God, thank God, because I don't know how to do any of your jobs.
Yeah.
Thank you all for everything.
We need
Every
everybody.
frontline worker, every time I see an ambulance go by, I'm always like, thank you.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, everybody is serving in some way. And that, I think that's where we all forget. We're all serving each other in some way. And we need to acknowledge that. And yes, some jobs may be fancier than others, sure.
Yeah.
But does it mean that they're more worthy or more valuable than others? Not at all.
I remember my parents were janitors at the largest nightclub in Boston, the Channel.
I read that, yeah.
And one of the things that I realized at some point as I was getting older, I'm like, well, without us cleaning, like they would never be able to have a show. Like the B-52s would come to perform. They're not going to perform in last night's vomit.
Hello. Exactly.
Like we need to do our part so that they can do their part.
That's right. That's right. And
so,
it's the whole, that's exactly what I meant about when I worked in the restaurant business and I saw how everybody has to work together. So without the busboys, I realized when I came home one day, to your point, somebody got really sick in the bathroom and I thought, oh my God, without them, it doesn't matter how many people are waiting that are waiting for me to seat them right now. If I don't have the busboys clearing the tables and I don't have the busboys cleaning the bathrooms, these people aren't coming to eat here. That's a fact. So everybody is important. Everybody is important on this wheel of life here.
Yep.
You know? And so exactly to what you're saying about your parents. No one was going to come perform in that nightclub if your parents weren't there doing their job.
Yep, absolutely.
Yeah.
One of the other things that I really loved in the doc too, I mean, obviously there's so many celebrities that your dad has touched and helped, and Jamie Foxx, I mean, I can't love that guy more, by the way. He's so freaking talented and so adorable, and I just love him. But Snoop, that moment with Snoop was so powerful because, you know, there was a moment where, you know, Snoop was confronted with the choice of maybe doing something not good, maybe something violent, and your dad steered him into a more peaceful place. And that's when he started to adapt this peaceful mantra in his own life. Like he said to him, you have the choice right now to be a role model for all these kids who look up to you or take them down a different path. Your dad was there for so many moments of people's like pivotal moments for people's lives, big and small. There was the other executive who was going to divorce his wife, and that was like a beautiful moment too. That doesn't necessarily touch the world like getting Snoop, but it's still important, and it was in his life. But my point is like, your dad, it didn't matter, was it big or was it small? He just was a problem solver who got in. But the Snoop thing really hit me hard last night, because if he hadn't reached him, talk about a ripple effect.
That's right.
Of what would have happened. And the millions and millions and millions of people that Snoop has taken down a different path with, and then also for himself.
I mean, he might not even be here, Maria.
Yeah. I mean, it blew me away. Like,
me too. That was actually one of my favorite stories of the doc, because I had heard little ripples about it, and I had heard things, but I had never heard that from Snoop. I had never sat down with Snoop and asked him before the doc. And when he said it himself, I thought the same thing. I said to Reggie, wow, look at all of the people that looked up to him that would have gone down the wrong path had he stayed on that wrong path. And Snoop was smart enough to change. He was grateful enough to have somebody, you know, I love what he says something about in the film, I'm paraphrasing, but, you know, if somebody like him in Clarence's position has the time to talk to someone like me, I must be kind of important, you know, to do this. Listen. And again, it goes back to paying it forward. You know, it's all about what are we depositing in life? You know, what seeds are we planting? And what are we depositing in other people's lives? You know, I think a lot of people now feel that I have felt this, where sometimes I feel like an ATM. And I've noticed now as I get older, I start to ask myself, well, who's coming to withdraw from me all the time and just pull and pull, and what do I do, and how do I do this, and right? And
write that one down.
And then who's coming and making a deposit in my life? Who's coming and just checking on me and seeing how I'm doing and wanting to do something great together? Or hey, when they call me, hey, Nicole, like during COVID, I had so many friends who I had no idea all the great humanitarian things they were doing locally. And I had friends call and say, listen, I'm doing something in South LA and I want to get computers to all these kids and I want to make sure they have lunches and I want to make sure this. And all of a sudden it was, oh, yes, of course, absolutely. I'm here to help you. And it was more of the energy of service and giving where they were depositing something good in my life as opposed to just pulling from me and complaining and whining and I can't believe this and I can't believe we're this. And I would try to turn people around. Like if you're in a house and you've got 4 walls and you've got running water and you've got food and you've got friends and you've got your health, you're doing really well. This is hard for everybody, of course. But think about the people who don't have what we have. Yeah. Think about the people who don't have the resources that we have. And try to find them, maybe. Try to, and so for me, COVID, I realized, I need to now bring it home. Like who is right next door to me that I can help, or who is in my immediate circle that I can even give more to or even pay more attention to. Yeah. So, but that whole idea of planting a seed versus somebody just withdrawing from me all the time versus depositing, it was a game changer for me.
I love that. I think that's so powerful, and what a great way to kind of take stock of the people in your life. Ooh.
Yes. And you know what? And I also learned along the way, you could release people with love. You don't have to actually have a conversation. I used to think that I used to have to have all these conversations and say why we can't be the same friends or why no, you just kind of ease out, but you wish people well. Mm-hmm. Somebody said to me, I had an ex-boyfriend say a long time ago, I thought you forgave me. Why aren't we friends? I thought you forgave me. And I said, listen, I did forgive you, but forgiveness does not always mean reconciliation. Mm-hmm. And forgiveness doesn't mean that, we have to continue our friendship or whatever. I wish you well. I really do. I wish you well. But that's it. Like we were in each other's lives for this amount of time. God bless you. Wish you well. But that's it.
Yep.
Instead of, and I used to think like, forgiveness, you have to condone the behavior. No, you don't. Of course you don't condone bad behavior. And you don't have to reconcile. Sometimes it's nice if you do reconcile. But I think especially women, I think we carry that burden of when we say we have to forgive, we feel like doormats because, I forgave him even though he's terrible for me. I forgave him even though I know he's not right for me. You can forgive him and still move. Mm-hmm. You can forgive him and move away from him. Forgiveness doesn't mean you have to sit there and stay in that situation. And I think women get stuck more than men, but women really, because we want things to be more peaceful. I mean, thank God for women. Without women, I think, I don't know if the world would even turn without women, quite frankly. No. Right? So the grace that I think we misunderstand grace. I think we misunderstand forgiveness. I think we misunderstand mercy and kindness. I think we've taken them as, those are so weak. That's the way we used to be. It's not 1950s. 1950s, without those virtues, the world doesn't turn.
Yeah.
Doesn't spin well, doesn't bode well. Our society, our American society is great, yes, with industrialism and all that, but without women doing what we have done throughout history and raising our children and teaching our children to be good and kind, at least decent. We're not always perfect. I'm not saying good like that. But being decent people and being a part of civic society, that is a role that comes very natural to women. The feminine principle, I guess what I'm trying to say is a principle. It's a principle that drives humanity. And I don't think we honor it enough.
I agree. I totally agree. And I really needed to hear that forgiveness talk today for so many reasons. So I'm really grateful that you were sent. You were the angel that was sent to remind me of that today. So I appreciate that.
You're welcome. Well, look, we all have to, I had people tell me, look, that person sitting next to you, not everybody gets to go to the next station. Not everybody goes to the next stop. Some people get off. Some people have to get off.
I love that.
Not everybody.
Some people have to get off the train. And when they get off, wish them well. Take the lessons. Take the love. If anything you got, even if the lesson hurt, but take it. and then the train goes again. And then you have other people, and then, you know, and I think it's continuous. It's just, it's the only way that I have found peace within myself, of learning how to just let things go with grace. And and I've also had to learn that some things I will never understand, and I have to just put that in the file in my brain that says, this is a file that says you will never understand this.
Yeah.
Maybe you'll understand in the next life, but you're not going to understand it in this life. And stop wasting your time stop wasting so much time to figure it out. You may not get it, but it's okay. And so I'm happy that, you know, look, that forgiveness thing that you just got from me, I had so many teachers teach me that through life, you know, and I think it's the great title of your podcast, Better Together.
We are.
I think we're better together when we share information.
Yep.
And I think that's the beauty of what Oprah Winfrey has given this world, and what she opened up for this world is, I'm receiving a lot of information that has healed me physically and emotionally and spiritually, and I'm going to share it with you.
Yep.
And take it or not, but I'm going to share it with you. And I think the more we do that, instead of focusing on just be a badass, just go out and do all these things. Well,
yes. Be a boss. Shit,
Boss
I
babe.
can't.
No. How about be yourself? And a lot of these people, the problem I have found is that a lot of young girls and women are having a very, very hard time being their best selves, because you can't be your best self if you don't know who you are. And everyone is trying to be somebody else, and everyone's living in this alternative universe, and somebody else's Instagram all day, on somebody else's this, and then they don't look at themselves, and you can't change. Sometimes you can. I mean, there's great things on Instagram. I'm not saying that they're all bad. I'm just saying you have to know yourself.
Yeah.
And to know yourself means you got to spend time with yourself. As I like to tell our daughter, everywhere you go, there you are. So guess what? If you don't like yourself and know yourself and understand yourself, you're not going to be very comfortable no matter where you go, because you're the only one that's always going to be everywhere you go.
I love that.
You know?
Oh my God. So powerful, because, you know, anytime I hear someone and they're like, I'm living my best life, and I'm like, are you? Because I know people who are living really good lives. I've never heard them say that ever. Like, I don't think that would ever come out of your mouth, Nicole, ever.
I've never said it.
Ever.
No.
And so this new generation, and they're like taking their pictures and they're like, living my best life. And I'm like, are you really? Because this is fascinating to me. But, you know, it's.
Well, are you living? That's the thing. Are you?
Yeah.
Are you even living? Do you see? Yeah, that's the whole thing of just get back to, it doesn't matter how successful you are, how great you are at the job. If you're a rotten person, no one really gives a shit. And that's what people are going to remember. I remember taking being in, I don't know, 4th, 6th grade or something, and it was about, what would your obituary say? What would you like? How would you like people to remember you? And when all of us wrote something down, our teacher said to us, none of you said anything about your business. None of you said anything about money. You all talked about character. You all talked about, you know, a good mom, a good this, or, you know, it was giving to my church or giving to other people, but that's what we wanted. And it was a really good lesson, because it always reminds me of, yeah, you know, I don't know when I'm, as Clarence always says, you know, to live every day as if it's your last, because one day you're going to be right. And you have to figure out what you're going to do in that dash. So you come in with a number and you leave with a number. And what you do in between those two numbers matters.
Yeah.
It really does matter. And I love what you said earlier at the top of the show with your health is your greatest currency.
Yeah.
Because it really is all that matters, because as we all know, when we're not in good health, and I had, you know, tumors in my stomach area and my uterus that I had to have surgery on. And in those days where I couldn't walk, like you said, you know, when I couldn't walk, and they said, you'll walk in a week. 6 weeks later, it took me half hour to walk to the mailbox one day. And I just cried all the way to that mailbox, because I thought, how many days have I taken for granted of just being able to walk and do things, and just it's the simple things, and it really is the simple things when you get down to it. And the best teacher of it is when your health is compromised.
Totally.
Totally.
Your teacher did the obituary thing. I always teach people when I'm trying to get them to figure out a different way to face life's challenges. I always say, because this is what I always do, is think about how you would want your story to be told.
100%.
And so that's where movies and documentaries are so impactful for me. It's like, how would I want my story to be told? So when I got diagnosed with my brain tumor, by the way, I was at an event the night before with your husband. You might have been there. I don't remember officially. At the Sabin's house for the Brain Trust for
Yes,
Dr.
I
Black.
was there.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. I wasn't sure because I
We're
remember having
girls. Yes.
I don't.
For Dr. Black.
Yep. So,
Yes.
so here I am. I had promised him I would go to this event before I got diagnosed. Then I got
Whoa.
diagnosed and he was like, so obviously you're not going to be making it. I go, no, I'm coming. And he's like, what? And I was like, yeah. And so I said, but listen, you got a 2-drink minimum, buddy. I'm going to be watching you. And so, because I was like, he's going to be operating on me in the morning. So we're at that event and I remember them, showing videos of
Yes.
brains he had operated on. And I'm
Yes.
sitting there and I'm like, holy shit, that's going to be me in like T-minus 6 hours. But I made a conscious choice to go through this brain tumor journey with humor. I was like, comedy must rule. I'm going to crack jokes. I'm going to make it fun. And I didn't want to burden my family with more stress. And I was like, I'm going to be fine. And if I'm not, I'm not. Like, I have no control over this anyway.
Right.
And so I always say, I would rather go through it in a different way. And I'd rather the story be told that I kind of had the balls to face it and laugh at it and just, do it differently. And so when life hits you, it is about moving forward. Rocky's one of my favorite movies, and, it ain't about how hard you hit. It's about how hard you can get hit and keep moving forward, how much you can take. So I always use the, what's the movie of your life going to be like?
I couldn't agree with you more. And I think, like you just said, the only way out is through. The only way out is through. So you have to go through it. And the attitudes, and science has shown this, the better attitude you have, the more positive of an attitude you have when you bring humor into your life. I read about some guy who healed himself just watching comedy. Only watch comedies for 2 months straight. He didn't watch anything else, no news, no negativity, no nothing, and just laughed. And he went back to his doctor, and the ailment, and it was a serious ailment, and it was gone. And it is, if you're going to go through it, like you said, anyway, and you don't know really what's going to happen, then your attitude of with humor and making light of it as much as you can. It's not saying it's easy, but it does make things better, and you do feel better. And you kind of have to just, you have to find some humor in something, or it's, and it's not easy to do. But I look at, I go to Children's Hospital. I used to go visit all these kids, 5 years old, 7 years old, with tubes all in them, and smiles on their face, joy in their heart, gratitude in their heart. And I would walk out and say to myself, oh, you're an asshole, Nicole. Like, really, like, get it together. They're young, they have tubes in them, they are afraid, they don't know what's around the corner, yet they have more joy in them for living than you do. And so, get it together. And it's a good reminder of seeing people and sharing stories of how to just move through at the highest consciousness, I guess I'm trying to say, as you can, Well,
I always think too, someone has it worse. So it doesn't mean that you have to negate your feelings, and it doesn't mean that your journey isn't important too, but to help give you perspective.
Always.
It's good to think about it in those terms. Like I did, I used to do Day of Beauty events at the Children's Hospital for the terminally ill kids. And every year I would have the same feelings as you. And I would think their only connection to the outside world is that window.
That's right.
And some of them didn't even have that. And you're like, wow. and so and they're little kids, and it's awful, but those are the things that give us those are the things that give us perspective.
And movies and art, all art, I think, but especially film and television, they tell the human story in various different ways. And the human story is a gift to everybody because it gives you a different perspective. You must have a different perspective, which is why I wanted to make The Black Godfather, to give people a different perspective.
And you did. And you
So.
did. One last thing before I let you go, because I'm sure you have a heart out too. The other striking thing, Kevin's like dying to ask questions over there too. I promise I'll let you get a question in, Boo. So it was Snoop. And then, of course, how do you not talk about Bill Clinton's moment in there?
Yeah.
I mean, he was about to cry.
Yeah.
Bill Clinton, by the way, really special guy. He also, when he had found out about my tumor, I've interviewed him a few times. He sent me the most beautiful letter saying that, they were praying for me. I mean, that just like moved me beyond.
Yeah.
And you could just see, the vulnerability just pop right back into that present moment that he had in that moment when he was under fire and in that hot water moment. It was so crazy to just see him, boom. Now he wasn't Bill Clinton, powerful Bill Clinton. He was like, he was vulnerable Bill Clinton, recounting that moment, which was a really powerful moment to capture.
Yeah.
And I wonder, was that something that he offered, or did you guys say, hey, we'd love to talk about this?
That just came from a question that Reggie asked him, and he just brought it. I mean, it was a beautiful moment. And I think what that, vulnerability, I think a lot of us, we don't really understand the word, and it shows, you get so much strength out of someone being vulnerable. It's such a strong thing to do, is to be vulnerable actually is really showing how strong you could be, because it's just, you're the most human, where your ego is out of the way and you're really reminded of, oh, this was a terrible moment. And again, my dad not being one for victims is, get back to work, just work. You got to get back to work. But the vulnerability is, I think people respond to stories like that because it reminds us all of ourselves of when we are in those moments. And I think it's very strong to share those moments with other people so that you could remind yourself that, right, we're all human and we all make mistakes and we all feel terrible and we all feel weak and we all feel down in the dumps. And when we don't share that side of ourselves, I think that's where you get the boss and be this and the badass. That's only a little part of a human being. I'm not saying that doesn't exist, but you have to have the whole person. So I'm happy that he shared that moment, because no, we did not ask for that moment, and it was beautiful.
I mean, it really blew me away.
Me too.
Really blew me away, and he has such a way with words. When he was like that. When it's raining out and you got that person who just brings out that little umbrella.
Yeah.
I was like, but also again, back to your dad, what incredible advice. And so in this business, and for anyone who's listening who is in the business or wants to be in the business, one of the things that I've also learned by watching is it's the people who just keep moving forward and just plow on through, just like shut off the noise, that survive, right? That I think was really incredible advice for him. Like, just get back to work, it'll be fine. And when someone says that to you, that you admire and you trust, like he admired and trusted your dad, I think that gave him the confidence to say, okay, well, if he thinks that, then okay, I'll think that. And then you just go.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
It's really cool. Okay, Kevin, all your burning questions.
Well, I mean, I have so many, but so I know you. I mean, Nicole, first of all, like your career is going to take on so many other, just like your dad, you're going to be doing a lot more. And you're going to see, like, there's a lot more on the horizon for you. So I just want to say that. Right? So I want to be the first to say that if you haven't heard that
Thank you.
before. But my goodness, I just want to say like this was a movie about people working together, paying it forward, perseverance, hard work.
Yeah.
There's so many things that unfortunately it's been the good part of the 20th century that's been poo-pooed kind of a little bit, and getting to see this and with your dad, I want to say, like, from my perspective with his mentor, yes, I give the mentor credit, but mentor also saw something great in your father that was going to profit him immensely.
Right.
Yeah.
And furthermore, why I kind of relate to your dad was there's a line in the movie where all the artists and these mega stars and multimillionaires he's helped, they're like, we don't even know how your dad makes money.
Yes.
Your dad didn't profit the way that his mentor did.
That's what I forgot
So
to
which
say.
really
Yes.
just elevates your father. And then the fact that your father, let's face it, the group of like all the white guys sitting there, they admitted they're like, we're a bunch of assholes.
Yeah, I
and the
know.
fact that
I
your
love
dad
that too.
your dad got the good out of them.
Yes.
And I just it's like I just want to say to anyone right now who is angry, bitter, hopeless about our future, feeling divided, this is the movie to see. Black Godfather. And Maria, I want to ask you something, and Nicole, I think you'll appreciate this question, Maria. I want to ask you, as I was listening to her speak and processing the film, is there a more important movie of the year or of this young decade, do you think, than Black Godfather?
No,
Right?
not from
Goodness.
and
Oh my goodness.
I mean that
guys.
for the many lessons, the many examples. I think it's stuff that's just been missing that we have needed. And I think that your dad obviously is such a great example, like I said from the beginning, but the money thing was interesting. The money thing is so interesting because there was something at the beginning that you had said that I was going to go into, and then we went off into something else, but it goes back to It's a Wonderful Life.
Yeah.
He didn't care. He just he just was living and helping and doing. He wasn't worried about invoices and all the other stuff. I think he just knew the same thing, the theme of It's a Wonderful Life. You're rich in friends. Someone who's rich in friends is rich. And
Yeah, I mean, look, he had his businesses, he did well in them, and then he did terrible in them, was up and down and up and down. But to your point, he was rich in friends who showed up when he did go down.
Mm-hmm.
So the point is, I think, which we got across, thank God, in the film was, had my dad not been that person to kind of help people along the way, like Lalo Schifrin, when he said, I want to come to Hollywood and, I want to do these things. And then a couple of years later, it's Mission Impossible and what have you. But had he not been there for people, they definitely would not have been there for him when he went down. So my mom was able to call his friends, and she was able to say, she tells me stories of she would call people secretly, like, Clarence helped so many people and we're losing everything.
She
and
was Donna
no one,
Reed.
Coming to help us. And they, like Joe Smith, God bless his soul. I mean, like I said, we've lost 7 people in a year and a half from that film.
Wow.
And Joe Smith really, and he says in the film, I mean, I think what did he say? Like, we proved to be Santa Claus. They came in, and Jerry Moss, God bless him, from A&M Records. I mean, they all did. Herb Alpert. And I remember asking my dad recently, he goes, no, I paid everyone back.
Wow.
It took me a while, but I paid everyone back. But the fact that they literally saved our house. I mean, I'm in the movie. I mean, I say this, and I carry this fear in me now of, you got to pay everything off. No one's taking our house. I drive Ted nuts. But it's this, at 6 years old, when someone is telling you that the bank is going to foreclose, I don't know what that means at 6. I don't, all of a sudden it's like, we're moving. Where am I moving? We don't know where we're moving. Maybe we're going to go back to New York. Maybe you're going to go live with your grandma. I mean, it was bad. And because it was all businesses at once. So his wealth and friendships, thank God he had sown enough good seed to then, when he was in trouble, they were there and they wanted to help. That's the difference. They actually wanted to help him and help him get back on his feet after Sussex Records. And even the Bill Withers story, for me, I think that was one of the most important stories, because Bill and my father started off great, then Bill left, then they would argue, but they always shared their publishing. And it was up and down, up and down. But by the end of the film, you saw their whole relationship. And it's Bill giving the speech when my father's receiving his star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame.
Yep.
You know, and so that, for me, that arc of friendship and being there for each other was very profound for me. And it's a deep love. It was proof that you don't have to spend time with each other. They didn't talk every day on the phone.
Yeah.
They spoke maybe a couple times a year, but the love they had for each other never went away. And Bill always wanted to be there for my father. I mean, when he passed this year, I was in love with Bill Withers. I mean, I really wanted to marry Bill Withers, but I was in love with Bill. And I also wanted to marry Randy Jackson. I always look at Ted like, you look like neither of these men.
That's another episode.
Yeah. But, it's the power of friendship, and it's that currency of friendship, I think, has been dismissed in society, and it'd be good that it can come back and people really help each other out, because we all need somebody to say yes, and we all need an umbrella, as President Clinton said.
Yes. What a beautiful way to end. I think, in my first book, that's how we ended it. It was like, I really feel like we're all here to help each other. And we've lived our lives in the same vein where we help everyone in our path, and we have gotten it back.
Try to.
And so, and I think that was the beauty of that doc, is there were so many gifts within it for all of us to take away.
Thank you.
And your dad had every reason to be bitter and angry and not be like that. And who would blame him for being, if he was just out for himself, or, and the fact that he didn't. Black Godfather on Netflix, people, please see this movie and tell your friends about it. If you want to feel good, if you want to have hope for the future, and I just think young people need to see it, because even the fact that he's like me, he yells at his loved ones as a coach, and Nicole, like this new generation, they don't understand you're doing it because you love them and you want to pump them up.
Right.
And they're, why are you yelling at me? But
I feel bullied.
Right, I'm being bullied. I'm being bullied. Like, no, I'm just making a point. Exactly.
Yeah, I know. It's hard. But I think
thank you guys for your support. I love that you love the film so much. And everything you're saying about it is exactly the reason that Reggie and I wanted to make it. I mean, we talked about making this film for 20 years. Reggie and I just together 20 years. I mean, almost 20 years.
And it was fun, too.
15.
Like, aside from, like, all the, that stuff, like, the graphics and the chart, like, all of that, the way you guys did it was so well done.
I mean, I cried. I pumped my fist at times in triumph. I mean, it's a great film. Now, what are we doing for the
What's
Oscar?
next?
No, we need to get an Oscar, Maria. So we got to start campaigning.
Oh.
We got to start, like, we're on it?
It's over?
Yeah, it's over.
What? How?
I wasn't involved. Shit.
I know, I needed to be on the show early. No, it's fine. You know what? It won. It's already won. It's been nominated maybe 4 or 5 times for different, best documentaries, and it's won a few times, and I'm grateful for all that. And Pharrell even, Pharrell doing the original song at the last minute. I mean, we were done with that film. And I only asked him to watch it as a friend to tell me the truth. I'm like, what did I miss? Did I get anything wrong? And then, so he's won, I think, 1 or 2 awards and been nominated. I think he might be up for a Grammy this year. I don't know. I think he might be done with award season, unfortunately. But it's the gift that keeps on giving.
It is.
Yeah, you're right.
Keeps finding a new audience around the world, which makes me so happy.
Well, It's a Wonderful Life, as you know, wasn't successful until 30 years later.
Well, this was successful.
But this should have been Oscar consideration.
Absolutely.
It should have been. But by the way, it's going to keep going now, and we have to keep passing it on to people.
Yes, and I agree, and thank you. And I love that you loved it so much. I really do.
I needed this movie.
Loved. It really was, we really needed it. It was like chicken soup for the soul.
Yeah,
Yeah, for sure. So I look forward to the next one.
Thank you. Working on some things now.
Okay.
So
I love it.
Yeah.
And Nicole, you need to come back, because there's just so much you can offer. I think young people, women, men too, in business. I think
my God, we have
just
so many social posts out of this one. There were so many great takeaways.
I literally just messaged Jeff and said, "Get ready for 43,000 clips." Nicole, you're incredible.
I will come back anytime. I love talking to you guys. I love listening to you. I learned so much last night. I mean, I listened to about 5 of your shows. I'm like, God, this is good. This is exactly what people need to hear. This is exactly the energy that needs to be out there. It's real. It's just real. I think that's what's missing is there's no cake. There's all this icing.
Yeah.
There's no cake. I'm like, guys, come on.
Thank you.
So I applaud you for doing what you're doing.
Thank you. Well, share it with anybody you think would be interested in it. And, we're hoping to take it to the next level this year and get it into more eyes and ears.
You will, no doubt. And I will come back anytime you invite me.
Awesome.
Yes.
Yay.
All right.
Thank you guys
Love
so
you.
much.
Thank you so much.
All right.
Say hi to Ted,
Bye,
my
Nicole.
Greek
I
brother.
will. God bless your mom. God bless your family.
Thank
And actually,
you.
Nicole, before you pop off, do you mind doing a little promo with Maria that we
yeah.
can send back to you guys? Just a quick, hi, I'm Nicole. Hi, I'm Maria. We were just on Better Together. We talked about The Black Godfather. It was amazing. Tune in, check it out.
Okay. I'll start.
Perfect.
You jump
I
in.
don't even know how to do this, but I'll follow you.
We're just going to do it. Okay. Hey, guys. I am here with...
Nicole Avant.
And she
And
is the filmmaker behind The Black Godfather, which is amazing and a must-see for everybody for so many reasons. There's so many lessons, so many takeaways, and it's just chicken soup for the soul. And you just did an incredible job with this, and I'm so excited for everybody to watch it.
thank you. And it's on Netflix. I'll end with that.
There you go. There you go.
Perfect. Thank you. We will send that to Katie.
Awesome. Thanks, Nicole.
Awesome. All right, I'll see you guys soon.
Bye,
Please
Nicole.
give your dad a
Real
hug.
quick.
I want your
We gotta
dad.
grab a photo too.
Oh yeah, shit.
Oh, yeah. Sorry.
Just a quick photo.
I have to get one too.
Yeah.
I
Sorry,
know. I
guys.
didn't even
So many things.
I'm gonna just count you guys down from 3. You both look perfect. In 3, 2, 1. Yes, perfect. Thanks, guys.
All right.
Awesome.
Hope to see you soon.
That
We're
was
on the
amazing.
East Coast. Someday we'll be back on the West Coast and we'll get together
I would love it.
in non-corona days, hopefully.
They're coming. They're coming.
Yay.
All right. Take
All
care.
right.
Thanks,
Bye, guys.
Nicole.
So cool.
Wow.
And so many
What?
amazing tidbits that we can social. She has so much to share.
She's incredible.
I know.
Incredible.
I mean, it's one of those things. I was texting Kels and I was like, I know that this next chapter I'm pursuing is the right one. But when your last interview on the show is that interview, you're like,
And you two together were just special. It was a spark. It was so cool because you were so excited, and I love when you get so excited. And then she loves you. That was really, really special.
Yeah, it was so cool. I mean, I loved the movie so much. And so if you guys haven't seen it, it's called The Black Godfather. It can be found on Netflix. It's incredible, as I said. I don't mince words, and I don't suggest things that I don't 1,000,000,000% believe in, and I think you can tell I loved it.
If you want to be inspired, and if you are somebody who, tries every day to be a good person, and then you see you kind of come up short success-wise, and you think it's because you're a good person, and I know a lot of people feel that way, especially middle-class people. We tend to feel that way. Watch this movie and watch, when you're good and in the long game.
Play the
how it
long
pays off.
game.
Yeah.
Yep. Guys, if you haven't joined us on Patreon, click the link tree on my Instagram at Maria Menounos, or Better Together with Maria. Join us for our heal events. Join us for our workshops. Of course, you get ad-free shows there and extra shows. And that is it for us. Thank you guys so much for being with us, as always. Thanks to our Heal Squad. Follow us at Better Together with Maria, at Jeffrey Crane Graham, at Kelsmeyer2. And remember, be nice people, make good choices, and be present.